At 2:17 in the morning, Marcus watched a man appear on a security camera in an empty building. A man who wasn't there when he checked the hallway. He leaned forward in his chair, the glow of the monitors casting pale blue light across his face. The building was supposed to be empty. He had walked every floor at the start of his shift, the way he always did, checking stairwells, testing door locks, making sure the last of the office workers had gone home. And they had. He was alone in there. He was certain of it. Marcus had been working security at the Harland Financial Building for about 3 years. It was a calm job, mostly. 14 floors of carpeted offices, conference rooms, and glass partitions. Nothing interesting ever happened there. That was exactly what he liked about it. He had a room on the ground floor, a small space with a wall of monitors, a mini fridge, a coffee machine that barely worked, and a wheeled chair he'd brought from home because the one provided gave him back pain. He spent most of the night watching those screens, cycling through camera feeds, drinking bad coffee, and listening to podcasts through one earbud. That was his life, 5 nights a week. Camera 7 covered the 9th floor hallway, a long corridor that ran east to west, lined with frosted glass office doors on either side. It was a well-lit hallway, fluorescent lights that stayed on all night because the building manager had never bothered to put them on a timer. Marcus knew every inch of that hallway from the camera angle. He'd been staring at it for 3 years. So when he saw the shape standing at the western end, near the door to the stairwell, he noticed it immediately. It was a person. Or it looked like a person. Tall, dark clothing, standing completely still, facing the camera. Marcus set down his coffee. He switched to full screen on camera 7 and stared. The figure didn't move. He grabbed his radio and checked the feed timestamp, 2:18 a.m. He pressed the intercom for the 9th floor, a speaker mounted near the elevator bank, and said, "Security, if anyone's in the building, please identify yourself." Silence. He watched the screen for another 30 seconds. The figure stood there, still. Then Marcus decided to go up and check. He took the elevator to 9, stepped out into the hallway, and looked toward the western end. Nothing. The corridor was empty. He walked the full length of it, tried the stairwell door, locked, as it should be. Checked 2 office doors, both sealed. Nobody. Not even a shadow out of place. He went back downstairs, settled into his chair, and pulled up camera 7 again. The figure was back. Same position, same stillness, just standing there at the end of the hall facing the camera. Marcus felt something cold move through him. Not quite fear, not yet. More like confusion colliding with instinct, his body registering something wrong before his brain could name it. He stood up again, went back up to 9, and this time he moved faster. Again, nothing. He stood in that empty hallway for a long time, looking at the frosted glass doors, the carpet, the ceiling tiles. He called out. No answer. He checked every door he could access, all secure. When he got back to his monitor room and looked at camera 7, the figure was gone. He rewound the footage. He watched himself appear on screen, walking down the hallway from the east end. And there, at the moment he stepped into frame, the figure at the western end simply wasn't there. It had been there on the live feed. It wasn't there on the recording. He rewound again to be sure. He checked the timestamp. The footage matched the time he'd been upstairs. The figure had appeared on the live feed, but it hadn't been recorded. Marcus sat with that information for a very long time. He told himself there was a technical explanation, a delay in the feed, a caching issue, something with the DVR system. He was not a technical person, but he believed, deeply, that there had to be a rational answer, because the alternative was something he wasn't willing to entertain. He filed a report. He mentioned a possible camera malfunction. he didn't mention the figure. 2 nights later, it happened again. This time on camera 12, the third-floor server room corridor, a narrow passage he rarely had reason to visit in person. Same thing, a figure, standing still, facing the camera. And when he went to check, the hallway was empty. And when he reviewed the recording, the figure wasn't there. He started keeping his own log, dates, times, camera numbers. Over the following 3 weeks, the figure appeared 11 more times across 6 different cameras, always at night, always between 2 and 4 in the morning, always gone by the time he arrived, always absent from the recorded footage. He never found an explanation. What he did find, eventually, was a notice tacked to the break room bulletin board, a memo from building management that a previous security contractor had been terminated the year before for accessing the building after hours without authorization. The memo didn't say why. It didn't say what the man had been doing there. Marcus still doesn't know if those two things are connected. He transferred to a different site 6 months later, a shopping center. Bright lights, lots of cameras, never quiet. He says he prefers it. Some people who work alone at night develop a particular kind of awareness, a sensitivity to the small things, the way a space sounds when it's genuinely empty, the way light behaves in a room that nobody has entered. You spend enough hours in silence and you start to notice when something is just slightly off. Dana had that awareness. She'd been working the overnight shift at a highway gas station for almost 2 years, and she knew the rhythm of the place like a second heartbeat. The kinds of cars that came through, the kinds of people, what a normal night looked like from behind that counter at 3 in the morning. The man who came in at 12 minutes to 4 did not look like a normal night. She noticed the car first, a dark blue sedan, older model, parked not at the pumps but at the far edge of the lot, in the corner where the light from the canopy barely reached. It sat there for almost 4 minutes before the driver got out. He was somewhere in his 40s, she thought. Medium height, wearing a jacket that was too heavy for the weather. He moved slowly, deliberately, the way people move when they're trying not to draw attention, which, Dana always thought, was the surest way to draw it. He came inside and walked directly to the back cooler, stood in front of it for a long time, didn't open it. Dana kept her expression neutral. She had a panic button under the counter and a phone mounted on the wall beside the cigarette display. She was aware of both. The man eventually picked up a bottle of water and brought it to the register. He set it down and looked at her. Not in an aggressive way. Something quieter than that. Almost sad. "Long drive?" she asked. She always tried to say something. Sometimes it helped her read a situation. "Yeah," he said. "Long drive." He paid in cash, exact change, counted out slowly. He looked at the door, then back at her. "You here alone?" he asked. "We've got staff in the back," she said, which was not true. He nodded, picked up his water, looked at her one more time. "Be careful," he said. And then he left. She watched him walk back to his car. He didn't drive away immediately. He sat in the parking lot for another 2 minutes before the sedan finally pulled out onto the highway and disappeared. Dana locked the front door, 15 minutes early, which she had never done before, and waited for her relief to arrive. The police came at 4:30, 2 officers. They showed her a photograph on a tablet screen and asked if she'd seen the man. She said yes. They asked her to describe his behavior. She told them everything, the way he'd parked, the way he'd moved, the question he'd asked her. One of the officers wrote it down carefully. The other one looked at her in a way that told her she'd been right to lock that door early. They didn't tell her much, only that the man was connected to an incident at a motel about 8 miles up the road.
She found out
They
later
said the
from a
word
news report
incident.
that a
The
woman
woman
people
had been
use it
attacked
when
that
they
night,
mean
something they
that she
don't
had
want to
survived.
describe in detail.
That the man
was arrested 2 days later at a rest stop 4 states away. Dana quit the overnight shift after that. She says she doesn't regret the job, exactly, just that she learned something about herself that night, about how clearly she could read a room, and how much that clarity had depended on not quite believing what she was seeing. There's a particular kind of loneliness that belongs to hotels in the middle of the night. Not the lobby, which always tries to look cheerful, but the floors above it, those long, carpeted hallways with identical doors, and the low hum of ice machines, and the sense that behind every door is a stranger, sleeping in a bed that isn't theirs. Nadia had worked the night desk at the Crestwood Inn for 7 months. It was a 2-star roadside property off the interstate, 42 rooms, a vending machine on every floor, and a breakfast area that opened at 6. Her shifts ran 11 to 7, and most nights nothing happened worth remembering. The call came in at 2:41 a.m. from room 214. She answered on the second ring. "Front desk." There was a pause on the other end, then a woman's voice, very quiet. "There's someone in my bathroom." Nadia straightened in her chair. "I'm sorry?" "There's someone in my bathroom," the woman repeated. Her voice was controlled, deliberate, the voice of someone working very hard to stay calm. "I woke up and the light is on. I didn't turn it on, and I can hear something moving." "Okay," Nadia said, keeping her own voice steady. "Are you somewhere safe right now?" "I'm in the bed, near the door." "I'm going to send someone up right now. Don't hang up. Can you stay on the line with me?" "Yes." Nadia radioed Terrence, the overnight maintenance and security person, a quiet man in his 50s who had worked at the Crestwood for 11 years and who Nadia trusted completely. She told him what the guest had said. He told her he was already on his way. She stayed on the phone with the woman in 214. The woman said her name was Claire. She said she was traveling alone, had checked in around 9, had fallen asleep before midnight. "Is the sound still there?" Nadia asked. A pause. "Yes," Claire said. "It stopped for a minute. Now it's back. Like something shuffling." Terrence reached the second floor in under 3 minutes. Nadia heard his knock through the phone, 3 solid raps. She heard Claire get up, cross the room, open the door. She heard Terrence's voice, calm and professional. She heard Claire say, "It's in there. I swear it's in there." Then a long silence. Then Terrence's voice again, saying something Nadia couldn't quite make out. Then quiet. Nadia waited. Terrence came back to the desk about 10 minutes later. He sat down in the chair beside her workstation and looked at the wall for a moment before he spoke. "The bathroom was empty," he said. Nadia waited. But the window was open, the small, frosted one above the shower. "I've worked here 11 years. I've never seen that window open. The latch was broken on the inside." He paused, and there was mud on the edge of the bathtub. The police came. They looked at the window. They looked at the mud. They looked at the small concrete ledge outside, second floor, accessible from a drainage pipe that ran up from the service alley behind the building. Someone could have used it to climb up. The window was just large enough for a person to fit through, if they were determined, if they were small enough. There were no fingerprints, no clear footprints outside in a way they could cast, no footage. The Crestwood's exterior camera covering the service alley had been malfunctioning for 3 weeks. Claire was moved to a different room. She checked out before sunrise. What stayed with Nadia wasn't the intruder, exactly. It was the timeline. Claire had woken up and heard sounds. She'd called the front desk. They'd sent Terrence. He'd arrived and checked the bathroom. It was empty. But the window was open. The mud was fresh. Which meant that whoever had been in that bathroom had left, either through the window or through another exit, at some point between when Claire heard the sounds and when Terrence opened the door. Which meant they had heard her make the phone call. Which meant they had waited, in that small, dark bathroom, listening to her talk. And then, at some point, they had made a choice. Nadia thinks about that sometimes. About what that choice was based on. About what they were waiting to decide. She still works nights. Different hotel now, better cameras, better locks. She checks the maintenance log for broken latches every week without fail. She says the thing that unnerves her most isn't the thought of someone climbing through a window. It's the thought of someone deciding to leave. That's the part she can't quite explain, that somewhere in the dark, behind a locked bathroom door, something chose not to be found that night. And she has no idea why.